Welcome to the Founders View from the Candidate X podcast. I'm your host, Man Wong, and I'm joined by Sunil Dial and John Jacobs. Gentlemen, welcome.
Evening, man. Everybody.
How are you both?
What day is it? What day are we on now? Because
it's still the Monday, I think.
Oh, is it Monday? I'm finding myself running it, forgetting the days and the time at the moment. So, yeah, good as could be.
So thanks for joining me this evening, chaps. We're here to talk about the Candidate X podcast, explain to everybody what the Candidate X podcast is all about, and we're all very keen to do so. But before we do, I'm sure we would all like to say a big thanks from the bottom of our hearts to everyone at the NHS, all the key workers, and everyone else that's been fighting this virus on our behalf.
Yeah, no, I'll echo those sentiments, man. I think everyone who's involved, even society as a whole, I think it's a great shining example of how humanity can pull together. So yeah, I agree with you and I echo that.
Yeah, absolutely. John, how's it going on your end?
I have a very anxious NHS worker in the house, in Jo. So she goes back to work next week, and I think the ward that she normally works on has 7 COVID patients at the moment.
Wow.
So yeah, fairly anxious times, not knowing whether she's going to have the right protective gear to help support those patients at the moment. And then obviously coming back into a house with the kids and, all of that sort of stuff going on. So yeah, it's worrying times, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately, for all of us. So we just got to hang in there. I think, as you said, Sunil, I think if we can all kind of channel positive thoughts, and we'll start to see some real positive things coming out of this. I think with the kind of community spirit and lots of people having the time to kind of pause and reset and have a think and, change some of their habits. And I think it's a nice time to try and break some of those things. I've been in the house for a week and I haven't left. I can't remember the last time that's happened. So
it's a strange thing, isn't it? The time you spent in your house over the last week and a bit, if you think about how long it would take you to live in your house over a period of a year, you've probably filled that quota up already.
You start charging yourself rent.
Yeah, well, I'll start to charge a kid's rent actually, just to try and make some money.
But I mean, it's been a bit of a ride, hasn't it? Really, I mean, it's for me, it's certainly been a lot more fun to have the family and all the time that we are together. But it's really hard to balance and juggle all this. The fact that we've had to choose to do the recording at night, so when the kids are all asleep.
Caveat that, man. One's asleep, one's in the lounge about 10 feet away from me, so I couldn't quite get 100% quota there.
Well, here's some fingers and toes crossed that she'll make a cameo for us,
And I wouldn't bet against it.
Which one is it, Lily or Maisie?
Lily, obviously.
So look, and I think what you guys were saying earlier is quite interesting. It's for me, it's certainly been very refreshing that despite obviously the horrendous circumstances of these events, that we've seen a togetherness that we've not witnessed in such a long period, especially after the saga that's been Brexit, right?
Mm.
Yeah, who would have thought we'd be pining for news about Brexit? But that's
those halcyon days.
Yeah, right.
It's an interesting thing, though. It's an awful event to go through, and we've got podcasts coming up, and we've got some detail on it. But I think things will change, and out of this darkness, I think we will see some change for the better in how we operate in society and in the workplace, actually. So, yeah, it's a bit of a rude awakening, a bit harsh, but hopefully, out of all of this, we'll see some positive impact.
Yeah, I mean, a massive spoiler alert. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot more about this during the time that we have in our own individual respective abodes. And we're going to have some time to discuss the things that we're seeing and witnessing and experiencing ourselves. And, and there's some really positive things to sort of highlight. Just before I came onto this call, I was on Twitter looking at some messages there, and I saw a number of things. I saw this lady talk about the fact that she's got a 5-bed place in King's Cross, sorry, and said, look, NHS workers, key workers who need a place to stay, come and live there for free, while all this is going on. So the camaraderie and the togetherness in the community is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, even our local area, we're doing volunteering to help some of the elderly who can't get out to get food, and And you look at the WhatsApp group, it's just overwhelmed with people who are volunteering to do that. I've even got the local butcher who sells out on a Thursday morning, telling me to give him a call the day before, and he'll save some food and some, you know, some produce for some of the elderly people who can't make it down to his shop. So everyone you could think about is finding ways to help each other, and doesn't really matter who you are, does it, at the moment in time?
It's just a shame, I suppose, that it took this kind of situation to bring out the best in people. You know, and I guess we're all guilty of that, you know. And I mean, I'm not sure how all this is going to materialize in the end, and we all remain hopeful that we're all going to get through this all stronger and grateful for everything. I for one, as I mentioned to you guys already, as soon as this is out, you know, in the clear, I'm going to get a ticket to go see a band straight away, you know, because I'm just appreciating those things a lot more.
Don't you take for granted all of the things that that are available to us in normal kind of living, the living years that we've had recently, but you just don't take advantage of them as often as you should do. You know, small things like just seeing your family and friends, right? I haven't seen you guys in person for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
When was that ever happened, right? We worked together, man, for 15 years.
Absolutely.
Well, I've seen my kids grow up more in the last 2 weeks than I have in their whole lives, really. This is the most sustained period I've had with them one-to-one, which is, you know, 1's 9 and 1's 7. So that's telling you something. I'm so used to being consumed with work that actually I missed out quite a lot, and I'm realizing that now over the last 2 weeks. So that's having a huge impact. I just hope, going back, I just hope we don't forget, you know, the learnings from this experience, and when we come out of it, we take it forward. That's the big thing for me. As humans, we don't forget and start going our own ways and go back to our old self-indulged sort of direction.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because children as well, I think they're not going to forget this period. You know, they're going to remember that, not necessarily the virus itself, but certainly the prolonged period they're having now. Particularly your kids, you know, they're of that age now that they're going to remember that extended time with mum and dad, you know, the cricket that you're playing with them, you know, or the exercise that you're running around with them, and the homework that you're spending time with, and all that sort of stuff, because it's so different to what they've been used to. And
I'm quite enjoying the working day being slightly different. It feels a little bit more relaxed, but you're no less accountable for picking up what you need to get done, but you're kind of working in hours which you wouldn't normally work per se. You know, typically so far it's been quite you know, you just get down to your laptop by about 9:30, and then it's kind of a good 2-3 hours, and then you've got to spend some time with the kids, relieve, you know, your other half if they've been looking after the children, and then, you know, you're spending a couple of hours in the afternoon with the kids. For, you know, you have to, and that's how it should be. And then you're picking it up again like we are now. What's the time? 9:15 at night. No problem. You know, because the day has been stretched out. I don't feel stressed. I don't feel tired. I'm good to go. I'm good to work at this point. And it's interesting to see how the working patterns are going to change, I think, as people start to get used to these kind of weird and wonderful hours.
As man mentioned, spoiler alert, there will be we were going to be speaking about this in depth because we've got some great insight on it. But I think that on that note, Jonathan, I think it'll be interesting to see when, especially the corporates go back to work properly, if they still will adhere to that sort of working pattern, or would they still have their deadlines and a lack of understanding for having family time. I think that will be an interesting piece, because at the moment everyone's on the same level playing field, right? So we're all sort of balancing time. But you know, some of us, when we have to go back into the office environment, into the cities, etc., will that behaviour change? And there will be no sort of understanding for your circumstance, or, you know, for ours as family and people. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm saving a lot of money at the moment. It's just not spending it. It's the small things. I say small things. It's the commuter costs. It's the lunches when you're in the office. It's, you know, it's the coffee on the way into the office. It's all of those things. They all rack up over the course of a month. So actually, surprisingly, my bank balance hasn't been as damaged as it would normally be. So you kind of spend things in different areas, don't you?
You just need to make that money first as well. That's it. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
I think even with the brief amount of time that we've had in this guise, its impression is going to be it's going to be everlasting, really. You know, the construct of work as we know it can be completely broken through. The methods of working is completely broken through, you know, and the precedents to show how remote working can actually be very positive and fruitful is incredible. And if you imagine trying to apply all this into a vibrant economy, how much opportunity that can really sort of introduce now that we've broken the mindset. And I think sadly those companies that have operated very much comfortably in that traditional working model of, you know, 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 6, etc., are going to have a bit of a rude awakening when things change back, because their workers are experiencing something completely different. It's just a shame that it's had to have happen in these circumstances, right? So, and personally, I'm fascinated about this. And once we're eventually in this all clear, will the working landscape actually be the same again? And this question actually segues nicely to providing some more detail on the Candidate X podcast. So when I wrote down what the podcast should entail, we talk about engagement with community, engagement with innovators, entrepreneurs and organizations, all that good stuff about their impact in diversity. But now we will 100% be discussing this in conjunction with the actual and potential impact from the virus. You know, we, along with our guests, will be doing our best impression of Mystic Meg and predicting what may come. And for us, within this isolation period, it's really important for our well-being to talk about these things, and also provide an opportunity for candidates to engage, and for us to be right there with you during this difficult period. Plus, I'm biased. You know, I think there's going to be some pretty interesting, insightful, inspiring content as we have in our journeys met and seen some pretty incredible people and companies who are doing some awesome things in the diversity space.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's an awful lot of really positive things happening out there, and I just hope this break doesn't stop the momentum with these things. And I think what we're really keen to do is to highlight these initiatives, because, you know, we go out and we have various coffee meetings and go to conferences and networking events, and we have these really engaging conversations with organizations and people that head these programs up about these wonderful initiatives that are going on. You know, I think we all feel pretty strongly that there's a lot of value in the conversation we have but with these people, but they're not able to. We need to be able to kind of learn how to broadcast these things out there to a wider audience, so that we can take that conversation and send that out to, you know, hopefully hundreds and thousands of people that will find those things valuable and useful. It's a kind of a scaling of those conversations that we want to have. You know, through the years that we've been, you know, working in various guises, you know, we've met some incredible people, and you know, we think a series of podcasts, you know, is the way forward to really bring to light some of these wonderful initiatives that are going on out there at the moment in the diversity space.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. What will be interesting is it's this experience we're all going through now on the diversity piece, is that no one actually cares. I mentioned it earlier in the podcast. No one actually cares who each other are or what you look like or, you know, what language you speak. We're all helping each other out in society, which is great. Actually, for once, it's almost felt like humanity's forgotten the divide that we have or we've created for ourselves. And I think actually going forward, this in a strange way, this will benefit diversity and inclusion and us actually working together. And that sort of unconscious bias terms, you hear quite a lot of terminology, things like that. Hopefully, past this experience, that there'll be a different, even the staunchest of people who had their various beliefs on how things should be, we'll see actually the benefits of us working together as one in society and in the workplace.
I think the virus is a profound equalizer to humanity, isn't it? It cuts everybody the same way. No one is above it or below it. It's equal to all humans, and there's a lesson to be learned there, for sure, about treating everyone equally. So coming out the back of this whole situation, you know, we should be moving forward in that fashion. So yeah, I mean, to your point, man, I think, you know, the various people that we've met over the years that are doing all of these wonderful initiatives, these are the sort of people that we want to be engaging with, or we will be engaging with and have been engaging with in terms of the podcast series and what we want to bring out to a wider audience.
think, you know, we all have a responsibility. It's not only people that we've been on journeys and met who are leading the way in trying to change things into more of an equal playing field, but we all have a responsibility. And I think this experience will show everyone, actually, we all could contribute in the same way and help us get to that sort of level playing field where we're all equals, right? But sport is a great sort of, I think, unfortunately, we've seen some things recently, but you know, sports, talk, music, areas like that, it's very diverse. It helps bridge any sort of differences that we do have. So I think everyone's got something to contribute to during this period to really help things going forwards in the future.
Now more than ever, I think, you know, it's going to be a very challenging time for underrepresented candidate groups. People that already find it harder than your average white man to get into work. You know, we're going to see a steady increase in the rate of unemployment over the next 6 months, I would have thought, with many businesses going under, unfortunately. So it's only going to add to the anxiety of people that are already out of work, and those that are going to be out of work who maybe struggled to find that job in the first place, they're now going to be losing. So now more than ever, we need to be holding up an amplifier to the conversation of diversity and inclusion, so that we can actually help new companies build with diversity at its core. So you're not changing complete company cultures that are, you know, the FTSE 350 as an example. You know, these companies are huge monster businesses that haven't thought about diversity from the start. Therefore, they're having to constantly re-engineer a lot of the way they do things, the cultures of the business, to make it okay. And there's a big balancing act going on at the moment. But for all the new businesses that are going to be coming through in the next year to 2 years, you know, that's going to be a core foundation of those businesses being built on. And I think, you know, it's very important at the moment. We're holding a megaphone to this conversation, so that, you know, we're here, we can support, you know, we want to lead the way with the conversation on how these things happen.
I agree with both what you both saying. I think, you know, we look at mental health and stimulation as well. We can't all just stop during this period. We have to move forward, and we have to take some of the positives, that's what's happening at the moment, and use that for how we build a better workplace and society together, I suppose, as well. So that's important. I mean, this is really positive, but I wanted to mention something on my experience coming through looking at diversity, and this kind of, the industry was kind of, we're creating an industry within diversity inclusion, I felt as well. We had some great people there, but I almost felt that there was this sort of ring fence around it where it sat on its own, had people pushing it along, but I found it very difficult to try and break in just to make a difference as well. And I know we've got that on the other podcast to discuss as well, but hopefully I think this, talking about leveling the playing field, will give everyone the empowerment to get involved and push things forward.
Brilliant. And I think, you know, I'm very excited about these series that we're going to be doing, and these episodes that we're going to be exploring here. And you know, we've got some really exciting people lined up to talk about the various products, services, all the different things and organizations that these people are doing. And you know, it's going to be great to be sharing with our listeners about all these things, right? So just sort of moving this on to a close, what sort of things are you guys excited about sort of sharing with everybody out there then?
I mean, for me, I'd like to cover some, you know, some opinions and some points of view of people that aren't your typical, you know, business leaders, I suppose, in core industries that we would always jump to initially when in our minds. So, you know, it's about talking to people that are in smaller industries and how they're doing, you know, educating ourselves as to some of these different walks and different challenges that we're not seeing every single day on LinkedIn. You know, it's about people on in grassroots level jobs. You know, if that's not a derogatory phrase, I'm talking about, you know, people who are in you know, blue collar roles, and the struggles that they're having. You know, we're very much from a professional services sort of background, and I'm interested in learning and educating myself from having conversations with people from different walks of life, you know, to talk about those challenges. I think that's interesting for me to see where those priorities are and the challenges that these organizations have.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, Jonathan. I'm just really keen, if I'm perfectly honest, just to have a voice. I believe with the Canada X movement proposition that we're building, actually things that we've always wanted to say or we've tried to say over the years or contribute, I don't feel it's been listened to or really adhered to, because we didn't have a brand or we didn't have a profile to break into that sort of club. But I'm really sort of excited that the more and more people that join us and contribute, as Jonathan was saying, and there's different ways of doing things, etc., really will allow us to have an impact as such. And go back to my reasons of why I joined you guys, and we all joined together to start this. We have kids, and we want to see a better future for them. We also want to see a better world. We don't want this to be another tick box exercise, as you see in businesses. And I want this to mean something, and I want to have a lasting impact that Canada X can achieve, that my children have a better future and can look back and go, Canada X had an involvement in doing that, and everyone involved in that.
Thank you very much for joining me tonight, chaps. We hope all our listeners will enjoy the shows that we'll be working on. As I said, we've got such an exciting pipeline of content that we're eager to get out. Any passing notes from either of you guys before we close out tonight?
No, just thank you, man. But also to everyone, keep safe and stick together, and we'll get through this.
Echo that.
Brilliant. Thank you, John and Sunil. We're also very interested to know what you think. Tell us what diversity and inclusion topics you think we should be talking about. Tell us who you want us to be speaking with. We can be found on all our socials, our Medium publication, and of course, CanadaX.co. Get in touch and drop us your thoughts. In the meanwhile, be good, be kind, stay safe, stay home, and save lives.